The folks over at IC Station have sent me a CSRA 64215. This is a Bluetooth 4.2 module with lossless compression and full speakerphone. In today's video, we're going to modify an old Ghetto blaster and bring it into the 21st century. Let's take a look. Every so often, a product comes out that at the time doesn't seem to be that impressive, but over the years you get appreciation for what it is or what it was. And this is such a unit. As you can see here, just from the specifications as to what it requires for power, you know that this thing's going to be pretty damn potent. It requires 10 D-sized batteries. 15 volts is the operating voltage. And it uses 4 AA batteries for the memory backup, which I hope have been removed from this thing. This was made in Japan. This is the RX DS20. Now, of course, this bloody thing had batteries left in it, and as you can see, the batteries themselves are just completely flat. But fortunately, they haven't leaked, which is good, because leaking batteries, of course, is a major problem. If battery acid gets into a nice unit like this, it can quickly ruin it. So what made this unit so good, you might ask? Well, it's got great speakers, a good amplifier, and fantastic sound. Let's take a listen to this thing. I'll just put it on the radio here. And that's just playing my in-house system. This radio had probably some of the best sound I've ever heard from a portable. These were not cheap. These units here, I believe they sold for about $400 or more. This is going back to the mid, I'm going to say mid to late 80s. I don't know. I'll see if I can find a date when this thing was released. Well, I couldn't find the release date on this thing. I Googled this thing and I found a few of them for sale for around $100 on eBay. I couldn't find the release date, but I'm pretty sure it was like mid 80s, mid to late 80s. It has a 2 DAC 4 times oversample, so that gives you an idea of the vintage. Maybe late 80s. Anyway, doesn't matter. These units here were great units, had great sound. Let's see what features of this thing work. We know the radio works, let's check out the CD player. So to access the CD player, I press the CD button, and then we'll open it. So this thing's been sitting around for a long time. You can tell by all the dust that's in here. The pigsty this has been in. Let's see if the CD player works. So, play. There it does, it plays a CD. It does not play MP3 because this is before MP3's CD players were around. It features a random program. So if I push 4, for example, it'll go to track 4. If I push plus 10 and 8, it'll go to track 18. This has got 20 tracks on this disc. There it is. If I press plus 10 twice, I press plus 10 and 10, I guess then it'll go to track 20. There we go. So that's the last track on the disc. It's great. The CD player works fantastic on this thing. So we know the optical block and the laser is in good shape. This thing probably did not see a lot of use as a CD player. Let's check out the auto reverse cassette deck. So for the cassette deck, I push tape, and then to open it, the cassette deck probably also hasn't seen a lot of use. It's got a lot of dust in here too. Yikes. Well, let's see if the cassette deck works. This is probably the one that's not going to work. It's probably going to have a belt that's shot. Play. Okay. It won't go into play in the forward direction. And it won't go into reverse. How about fast forward? Fast forward works. That's good. Aha! Now it's working. I think we're going to find, I'm going to open this thing up and we're going to find some switches that are probably dirty in this. But this unit here, what I plan to do to this unit. You see down here, this one has an auxiliary button. And I think this unit would be perfect for adding one of these. This is a line level, lossless Bluetooth board, so it'll do lossless transfers. See, Bluetooth comes in two flavors. Bluetooth will use compression, but the newer Bluetooth boards will do lossless transfers, and this is one of the boards that will do lossless transfers. I got this one from IC Station. The link to this will be on the video. So this came from IC Station, and I think this will take in supply anywhere from 3.6 to 5 volts. So I'm sure I could probably find a 5 volt supply inside here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to install this Bluetooth board inside the cabinet, because it's going to be lots of room inside here, right, to put this thing. Install this thing inside the cabinet, connect it up internally to the auxiliary inputs, and then my boombox will be a CD player, a cassette player, a radio, and a Bluetooth receiver. I think that'll be cool. That's today's project. So first, we'll pop the unit apart. You'd think that they had an investment in a screw company. The number of screws that you put to hold this thing together. So that reveals the unit itself. We can unplug the speakers over here. Now we can separate the speakers. You can see these are nice speakers here. They're 2.7 ohm speakers. Look at the good size magnets on them. They are good size, full range speakers. No separate tweeters, just full range, but they have really good sound. So, gonna set that aside. So for those of you guys that are interested, this is the board here. It's a CSRA 64215. It supports 4.0 and 4.2 Bluetooth module. It's hi-fi. It's a low power lossless compression system. And here's the pin out. So notice it has a microphone input on it as well. So I think I might actually install a microphone on this unit so that it can be used for a full speakerphone. Okay, I did find a little electric condenser microphone that was off of that little FM transmitter kit that I built a while back. So I'm going to install that microphone into the cabinet here, maybe in behind one of the speaker grills, so that this Bluetooth board, when it goes in this unit, can be used as a full speakerphone. I think that will give me maximum use out of this thing. So first we need to find a suitable power source that is powered up when this unit is in the auxiliary mode. And really I only care if it's got power when it's in auxiliary. But my best chances of finding a 5 volt supply is probably on this board at the front here. Because of course this is the display board and it'll have the logic control. Most likely the source where we'll find 5 volts will be on this board. Looks like it even has a place for an infrared sensor that this model never had. So we'll just check some voltages here and see whether we've got any power. I should make sure that my meter is working first, because I did have a probe break on this thing, so I want to make sure I got it repaired properly. 4.5, 4.8. I think these might be sources of power right over here. What have we got here? So you got 4.8 volts here. That's close enough to 5 volts. This one's got 4.59. Does this have power when it's in all modes? It's got power in tape. It's got power in tuner. It's got power in CD. And it's got power in auxiliary. And when you turn it off, it still has power. So this doesn't actually power down. This is a live 5-volt supply all the time. Okay, as far as audio output on here, I just so happen that I have a cord set that I took off those little speakers that I converted into the other Bluetooth project, so we can just take the line out from this, and then I don't have to start messing around with soldering any wires on. I just have to put my power here and my microphone. We can stick this inside the cabinet anywhere and hook this up to my auxiliary inputs. So let's find the auxiliary inputs where I can connect the end of this cord. I think these 2 screws here go into the base. At least this one does. But I don't think there's too many. I should be able to just remove a couple of screws, and the whole circuit board assembly should slide out and give me access to the bottom of the board. And that's all I need to get to. I'm not going to disconnect the auxiliary plugs on the back. I'll leave them still connected so they can be used as both, because if you're obviously not connected to Bluetooth, there'll be no signal from it. So I should be able to just slide this whole system out here. I may have another couple screws to take out here. This whole deck, the whole thing should slide out. Disconnect the power wire over here. It's going to lift up the catch on the side and then disconnect the power wire so I have a little more slack. There we go. Okay, now I can access the plugs. If I turn it over on its back, I can access the bottoms of the pins. What I hope is, I hope this 6-volt source that I found is not from the backup batteries. I just thought about that, and that might be one of those, might be the backup battery, which is not in the unit. There is no backup battery, so it does get power from the power supply. But if it did have a backup battery in it and we end up using that, of course that would run the backup battery down, but we'll check it out, make sure that it's not actually connected to the backup battery. Okay, I've got my left and right inputs are right here for the auxiliary input. We'll connect our cord down to the bottom here. We'll just check which one's which. So the right input is that one, and the left input is that one, and this one is ground. So let's get the cord. Wherever I did with it, that's not it. It's around here somewhere. That's the cord. And we'll just attach 3 wires for right, left, and ground. And then I can proceed to put the board back in. In the board a bit. Left. And right. And the ground wire. And that's basically all the surgery we have to do to the board. Pretty simple, huh? Now we can put this thing back together and start or get our power for the Bluetooth unit. And of course, clean up this tape deck while I'm at it because it's a filthy mess. Okay, the board slides in like that. These were quite the engineering feats, these units. Okay, the board does slide into a slot, so it's a little bit easier if you put it on its back, I think. Because there's a slot here that the board actually fits into, drops into place, and then all the mechanisms can drop in as well. Get that out of the way. Okay, now that the board's back in place, I can now set the other pieces back in, namely the control board, which has to line up with the tone control here. It has to line up with the control. Like that. That controls my tone control. Then the tape deck, it goes back in like that. Slides underneath this plastic tab here. The tape deck goes in place like this and drops in place. Now you know why shops charge so much when these units came in to have a belt replaced, for example, on the cassette deck. Why you got a bill of $70 or $80 in labor to change the belt, because these things are quite involved to take them apart, to get at everything, to do any work. You had to tear the whole thing apart. Okay, now I can put the screws back in and reroute my wire here for the head. It's got to go around here and then locks in like that. Locks in at the back like that. I did check the belt tension on this when I had it apart too. It seemed to be in good shape. Don't need to worry about that yet. Now I can reconnect my power. My power lead just plugs in. The red stripe is on the right. Plugs in just like that, and then push down to lock it in place. And now this is my auxiliary wire, which I can now just route this across the bottom here over to where I'm going to mount the Bluetooth receiver. It doesn't matter that I've got extra wire. Better that it's too long than, too long is better than not enough, right? Okay, now I can reinsert the wires into the wire holders. I'll turn the thing back upright. We're now ready to, first I'm going to put some batteries in and verify that this isn't actually a battery source, that it is just 6 volts from the regulator, because one of these might be battery and one might be regular power. Okay, I've got batteries in the unit. I do not have AC power plugged in. Do we get voltage? Yes, we do. 4.9 volts. So, this rail that I chose, which I still may use, is the backup battery power. Now, when the unit has power to it, it's going to be powered from AC, so it's not going to run the batteries flat. But if you unplug the AC power from this thing, I'm just looking to see here, here's the battery voltage coming in, and right going through here, this is the blocking diode over here from the battery. This little feed here, this will be the battery feed, this little 3 or 2 conductor jumper here. This is going to be the battery feed coming in. The battery voltage on this, the backup battery, feeds in through here. There's a diode here to prevent the batteries from charging when the unit is powered up. So if I take the batteries out now, or take one of the batteries out, like that, okay, now there'll be nothing. Should be nothing, unless it's got a capacitor that's charged up, but there should be nothing now on here, which there's not, right? And if I go over to this diode here, there's nothing here, right? Now if I apply power, the AC power, like that, okay, we have our 4.9 volts is back. On this diode here, we have nothing on one side because this is the blocking diode. This side here will have power on it. It's got 9 volts on it, which gets regulated down. So this is the source here. This is the blocking diode. So using this source over here, you can have the backup batteries in it. Just keep in mind that the Bluetooth board will be powered up and will take some battery power if you choose to use this source of power. Okay, there's 5 volts there, and that one goes off. Right there. So that's the third wire, the third pin. Or is it the fourth? Pin 4. Pin 4's got power. It has power when you're in tuner. It has power when you're in CD, and it has power when you're on auxiliary. It has no power when you're in tape, and that's fine. So pin number 4, this one right there. We're now going to connect power leads to the Bluetooth board, your VCC and ground. This is to provide power to the board from the radio itself. Okay, and then power to the VCC pin. Now this unit is ready for testing, so I'll plug the audio out into the audio in right there, or plug the audio in on the boom box to the audio out on this. Now obviously right now I don't have my speakers connected, so in order to test this I'll have to get the speakers, and we'll just plug the speakers in over here. That way I can test this, pair it, make sure it works, then we'll clean up this. Then we'll clean up the tape deck, so the speakers are going to plug in right over here. I had the camera zoomed in there, so here we go. Speakers are going to plug in here. We're going to power this up. I'm going to pair it to my phone, test it, mount the microphone, find a place to mount the microphone. We'll glue it down to the cover here somewhere, or maybe even put it in the speaker. Anyway, let's plug the speakers in first so that I can test this thing out and see whether it works. I'll just have to set it like that, I guess, for now. That's good enough. We'll power it up, and we'll turn the unit on in auxiliary mode. It should be on now in auxiliary. Give it a bit of volume. It appears this is not going to be a suitable place to pick up power. Even though it's switched, the current requirements of the Bluetooth board are higher than we can get off of here, and the voltage is dropping to 0.9 volts. So we got to find another place to pick up power. I can still use this backup point here, but again, I don't want to drain the batteries down unnecessarily if I don't have to. So let's look for another power point. So I've got another power point over here. This one's the fourth one over from the right, and when I plug my Bluetooth board in here, okay, I'm hearing some noise though. That might not be a good point. How about the next one over here? Has it got power? Nope. That one's got power. And then the unit is off. Let's turn it back on. Put it on auxiliary. It got power here. Will this power it up or will it shut it down? I think that was drawing too much power. So none of these ones are going to work. Well, one does, but it's noisy. Okay, so I think what I'm going to have to do on this is I'm going to have to build a regulator for it. And because apparently this thing here is picking up noise from the digital circuitry on the deck itself. Noise is getting induced in the Bluetooth board and it is being fed through the audio system. So I've got an old LM317 regulator board here that I ripped out of an old power supply a long time back, and we're going to reuse this one here because I can set this to whatever I want. Here's our ground back here on this diode, and here's our unregulated 17 volt supply. You notice I've got a filter capacitor on this board, so I'm just going to take a raw power from the rectifier and use this separate board as a regulator for my Bluetooth board. Okay, speakers are in place. Power it up. The Bluetooth board should already be online actually now. Well, that's no good. Okay, so after testing a few things here, I've determined that it's, I'm going to get better results if I just completely isolate and go on a completely separate power supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up a separate switching power supply, power it by AC. That way it's totally isolated. I have a 5 volt little old adapter here that it came from an IKEA toy, little light that flashed that my kids had when they were kids, and it was used to charge up the battery. It's 5 volts at 500 milliamps. We're going to recycle this. I'm going to mount this inside the unit and connect it up to AC power. And the only limitation will be that the Bluetooth board will only operate when it's plugged into AC, but that's fine, that's okay. Because something like this, you're not going to use it on batteries anyway. At least I wouldn't be. So I'm just going to connect my ground and my power up here to the board. At least this way I won't have to worry about any hum. And that was becoming a problem when I was trying a couple different sources of power. I was getting noise and I was getting hum and so forth, and I don't want any noise, so this should eliminate any chance of getting noise. So I'm just going to see if I can pop this thing open and just take the little circuit board out of this thing. I should be able to. Okay, so there's my little circuit board. As you can see, it's got good isolation here. It's actually really well designed, this little power supply, it looks like. And I can just connect my AC power going in to here. And here's my 5 volt output on this side. That'll power up my little board. So I can take this out. If I get this prong assembly out of here. There we go. Take that out of there. And then I'll mount it back in this case, so that it's totally isolated and insulated. So now I'm just going to disconnect the AC wires going in and give myself some new AC wires that I can connect up to the AC inlet on this unit. And then that sits in there like that. The top cover comes down over it like this. So that way this thing is totally isolated. And I'm just going to open up a little bit more of a notch here so that the wire doesn't get pinched coming through. That way the wire can come through like that. That way this thing here is completely isolated. I can stuff this inside here, stick it in place with some glue, and have it out of the way, and then just connect it to my power. I've got myself lots of power cable here so I can route this cable. Okay, so now this is going to mount inside here. I'm just going to use some hot glue or something to mount this up inside the back of the cabinet. The DC power line can just go across to the front. I've given myself lots of space so I can run it over here and stick the Bluetooth board over on this side, hook the microphone up over here as well, and we're going to power this right from the AC input. As I say, the only limitation that we're going to have on this unit is that the Bluetooth will only be usable when the unit is powered by AC. But again, this is my unit. I'm not selling this unit or anything, and this thing's it's never had batteries in it since it was new. The only batteries that have ever been in this thing is for the time and the station backup, and there's not a chance that it's ever going to be powered from batteries, so this is not going to be an issue. And here's where we need to access it on the bottom here. So here's our AC input. This is the DC or the AC output, the secondary. This is the switch that actually switches between battery and power. So polarity is not important on this. It's AC, so I can just tack these wires down either to the transformer or to the power plug itself. I'm going to do it to the transformer just because it's easier to get at, and the pins are spaced wider apart. So there's one wire, and the other wire over here. There's that one. Now I can put the transformer back in. Just let my power wires come out. From the bottom, transformer goes back in like that, and the screws back into it. Okay, that's done. It's going to attach this inside here. I'm going to get my hot glue gun going. We'll attach this transformer at the back here, so it's out of the way. I'll kind of route the AC power wire away from the low voltage stuff so that we don't have to worry about induction. Let's take that around here. Where's it going to go? It's going to go around here. Take it around the transformer here out of the way, and might even just put this whole unit, let's just stick it right on top of the transformer, or wrap it up with some tape so that the unit can't possibly come apart. And for that matter, I can just stick it in on top of the transformer here. It's not gonna hurt anything, right? We'll just tape this up. Tuck that in there like that. For that matter, I can just put some tape in here to hold this thing in place. It's not going to go anywhere. It'll actually fit right on top of the transformer there, out of the way. Nothing to damage the wiring. Just stick it in there and stick some tape around it. That'll hold that transformer in place. Okay, Bluetooth module's over here. Can plug it into the audio input on the unit. all these wires, I can just tie them up at the end. I want to test it first, so let me grab the speaker. We'll hook the speakers up. Unit has power. Turn the power on. Select auxiliary. We are on auxiliary. This Bluetooth port is already paired to my phone. So, oh, we hear sound from my phone. If I go to my player, I can't play this music for any length of time because this stuff is not stuff I can play from this device, but let's just see how. And I can control the volume from my phone. Sounds good. Let's see if I can pick another one up here. I don't want to play too long because, you know. Sounding good. Okay, let's stop this. And let's get the microphone working on this. Then I can test out the speakerphone function of this. See, that's what I don't like about Android devices. My other BlackBerry, my old BlackBerry 10, when I get alerts and stuff, when I'm hooked up with Bluetooth, it doesn't interrupt the music. It gives me the alert through the phone itself. This is a Android BlackBerry, like all the new ones, right? My other BlackBerry, I can have, and that's what I usually use for playing music. I don't use this one as a rule for playing music because that's an annoyance. Every time an alert comes through, it blasts through. If I have the alerts turned, I can turn the alerts off, but if the alerts are turned on, it blasts through my speakers. It drives me crazy. So I use my old BlackBerry that I don't really use as a phone. I use it as a Fongo phone for VoIP. So I got my free Fongo line on that. But I don't use it as a cell phone. I use it as a music player because I can use it as a music player and I'm not interrupted by alerts such as I am on this one. Okay, microphone's now connected. Just need to connect this to the Bluetooth board, so I'm going to cut the power while I do that. Okay, once again, the Bluetooth board. We have our mic positive here and our mic negative over here. So we're just going to tack down the microphone to the board. And I'm not using a very long cord here. It's shielded too. So mic ground is this one. And the other one's mic positive. I'm just going to tin the end of the wire here to make it tack down a little simpler. Okay, that should complete the project. We'll test it again before I reassemble everything, before I actually find a place to mount the microphone. But I'm going to go get my Fongo phone and we'll test everything. So I'm going to dial my number now from my Fongo phone and see if it rings. It does ring. So if I hit the answer here, I should be able to hear myself. And I can. So I hear myself. And I can hear myself on my other phone. So the speakerphone, it does work. Yeah, excellent. So it works as described. Now I just need to mount the microphone where it can obviously hear sound from the outside. I'm thinking that piece that looks like a fake hex key that's just molded into the plastic, I can drill that out and put that microphone right in there so it's flush with the edge. And that'll fit perfect in there. For this, I'm just going to use my good old snips, as that way I can just, this plastic's pretty thin too, I can just use this to open up that hole pretty easily. So there's the microphone mounted. I'm just going to put some hot glue around the back side to hold it in place. We'll also put some hot glue on the Bluetooth board to hold that in the back here up against the side of the cabinet. Then I'm going to reassemble the unit and do a final test. And that ought to hold that in place. I think right in here will probably be just fine. So I'm just going to put a bit of hot glue in here to hold the board in place. A little bit more on this side here. That'll hold that board in place. Now I can tuck all the wires in and put it back together. But before I do that, I have to give this tape deck some attention because this is ugly. That is so dirty. This is a really good tape deck in this thing too. I don't think it has Dolby, but it does it have Dolby? I don't think this does. But it's auto reverse. And it appears to work. This needs a really good cleaning because this thing's been sitting for years. Okay, I think this is ready to have the front cover put on it. The wire routing is very critical on this. You have to make sure that these wires for the speakers stay in their proper holders, because if they slip out, they're going to get in the way of the board, which has to slide into here. The front edge of the circuit board slides into these grooves here. So what happens if these speaker wires get pulled out of place is that it won't go together properly. So they have to be groomed into their proper holders here. Like that. And like that. Now it should drop in place. Okay, those two screws in. Close the door. Turn the unit on its face so I can put the rest of the screws in. And we're almost done with this project. I can put my battery in here for the backup. And got another screw down here. It's got to go in. That one didn't actually come out, but it's still in there. There's another screw down here. Got the two switches on the front and the volume control to go back on. Volume control goes in there, and the mode switches and the auto reverse switch, and it goes in. Oops, it doesn't go in like that. It goes in like this. There we go. Okay, unit's back together. Let's try it out. We'll try the tape first. And I'm going to rewind this tape and play it back. This has got a recording from the Music Bakery, so I can play this. Tone control works. works. Sounds like it might be a bit slow. Well, I'm not taking it all apart again to adjust it. So next we'll try the CD player. So I'll switch it to CD. Get the same music on here. We'll be able to hear if it's in key or not. Play. Oops. Press the wrong button there. I think that was, the other track was 19, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is the one that's on cassette. It is slow. It is a bit slow. Oh well. I can't do much about that. I'm not taking it apart again. The chances of using this cassette is pretty slim anyway. But you'll hear it here. Oops, 19. It is a bit slow. But then the deck that recorded this, I didn't check the speed of that, so. But I think this is probably a bit slow. It's been sitting for so long. Let's check the speed out. I'll put the speed. Let's put the speed tape in and just see how it looks. Okay, here's a 440 tone playing on my phone. You can hear I'm a little bit flat. There's the 440 tone. You hear it beating. So this cassette is slightly slow, but as I said, I'm not going to do anything about it. I know I probably just got a thumbs down from someone because I said I'm not going to take it apart again and rip the whole mechanism apart just to switch the speed up a bit on a cassette deck that is seldom, if ever, going to see any use. CD player might see some use on this, but the real thing that's going to see use on this is the new feature on the auxiliary. Punch auxiliary down. I'm going to pair this phone. Bluetooth. Whoops. Bluetooth device. Authorization request. There. Well, too many devices. There we go. I better start deleting some of the devices off this phone. I got too many Bluetooth devices paired on this thing. Music. Royalty-free music. There we go. So now I have the ultimate one-off Panasonic They call this the DS20 RX DS20. I think this one is. Yeah, one off. No other one like this. The only one in existence, unless somebody else has done the same thing as me. But there you go. This is one heck of a sounding stereo system. And of course, if I wanted to, I could record onto the cassette from my Bluetooth device or from CD. Of course, it's got a radio. And two, we didn't check the radio out. Let's make sure the radio is working. Okay, let's check the radio out here on the AM band. See what I can get. Probably not a heck of a lot because, well, AM is just so noisy here. As you can hear,
Jonathan Dolly out of sleep.
I actually can pick something up on this thing. I don't believe it.
They might give a we'll pass command with please don't go.
We have an accident on Night Street southbound at 49.
Not much on AM here. 980.
Well, thank you so much.
1040.
For sure, absolutely.
1130.
An emergency alert warning.
And I think the next one, well, there's a 1200. And I think there's 1310, but it's Chinese. Or 1320. 1410.
On Fox TV, 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
1440. Hey, I'm not on the air. What's going on? Oh, yes, I am. I'm getting some hum from... I think I'll probably have to just rotate this thing a bit. That's my transmitter, right? Quite sensitive in the direction it faces. FM. My test transmitter. Oh yeah, it works in stereo. It's a pretty good stereo effect on this track. So that works, tape works, CD works, and of course the auxiliary works now is my Bluetooth. So that's pretty cool. And thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again in the next one. You can support my channel through the Patreon or PayPal. Any contributions is greatly appreciated. Again, this little board that I got, it came from IC Station. The link is on the video where I got this. It sounds fantastic. We'll catch you later.